Dad's away, and we have the keys to the car. That's how we're going to start the episode. Guns up, giddy up. This is Last Call on Wednesdays, brought to you by Ghost Bed, Factor Meals, and the Wellness Company. Eric is on assignment in Florida. He is down there with Antihero and Conservative Ant and everybody else for the meetup that's tomorrow with the street cop training. And that leaves me and Keith and maybe John if he pops in. He hasn't popped in yet. But you'll have the three of us, 2 to 3 of us this morning for Last Call. And we've got quite a bit to talk about. The White House is considering bringing Palestinians to the United States. Palestinian refugees that nobody else on that side of the world is going to bring in. We're bringing them over. But that's awfully weird because we may or may not have boots on ground. We have a weird exchange with Matt Gaetz and Secretary of Defense. And then the main story, who's funding all of the things that are going on all across the country? We have a map that shows that this isn't just one place. This is a bunch of different places. And we'll go into like why this is more than just what it is. And normally about this time, Eric says, hit it, Joshua. So hit it me.
The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on Sunday.
This is about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Guns up, giddy up. Yeah, I remembered to unmute myself because there's quite a few times that I've watched Eric struggling because we can see each other at the bottom of the bar before we come on while the countdown's going on. But yeah, this morning I have Keith from One More and I'm Out of Here and Illegal Shift joining me, helping me keep my sanity because last time I did this on my own, it was like watching a train wreck, but you just can't turn away. So good morning, Keith. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on and allowing me to help wreck the show since we have
the good news is we moved it an hour, so John possibly will come on with us. I don't know how much work John had to do last night or not. We moved this an hour so that way Keith later on too, he's got to catch his protest. There's a bus that's going to come pick him up and take him to the university, and we want to make sure that he gets on that. Yeah, it's a while. You and I haven't been on for a while.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
It's been a bit.
Schedules and whatnot, but hopefully we're going to fix that.
Yeah, we've got it's really weird with overlapping schedules that we'll have. I have a text from John. Damn it, I'm on it. So John is on and getting our thumbnail gone, and so I'm thinking he's waking up, so he'll be on here soon. Cool. Yeah, we have. It's really weird because we have all of our normal stuff. But the behind the scenes and everything that I normally do, I usually do a lot of the behind the scenes. This is really the only show that I'm kind of out there on. So but there's so much other stuff that goes on behind the scenes that our schedules haven't lined up, unfortunately. But hopefully we're going to rectify that.
If you see me doing this, throughout the YouTube, it's I'm stretching for my campus fight club. So.
I thought you were going to carry the weight of the show. That's what it was.
I'll try to anyway.
That's what it was for too.
I played golf the other day and my ribs are sore. So
I thought you had another boating accident.
Nope, didn't.
It's going to get really upset with you and
I got my sea legs.
I
got my sea legs.
Well, if you find an extra leg, I could use one. if you're finding legs around. So before we get too far into this, can we get a Rob update for everybody? For those of you that don't understand who Rob is a co-host on One More and I'm Out Here, and he had a medical event earlier this year. It was really, I'd say, fight for his life. He was in ICU for quite a bit of time. It's still slow going. It's still pins and needles, but you got an update for us?
Yeah. So Rob's in a rehab facility, a really good rehab facility here in Cincinnati. He's been in there for about a month. Slow wins it will take, but he's trying to talk. He's awake. He's in there. The same sarcastic asshole that I know is in there because I get one of these every day and that. So it's going to be a slow process, but hopefully, he's relearning how to do things. So very, very strange, but we're glad that he's awake. So
I can't wait when we have John is awakened.
Look at that tall glass of water.
Have him come back on. Good morning, Jonathan.
Had a hell of a night last night. I didn't even get to do any of my normal producing things. We had such a terrible night. What's going on, gang?
Good to see you, buddy.
Another day in paradise.
Did you guys Did you guys already do the ad reads? Because that's normally all I'm good for.
Speaking of, we
Funny you brought that up.
right beforehand. And for those of you that don't know, I keep little notes on my thing, and I have 3 things written down for the ads, and that's about it. I don't have the ad reads. So if you want to do ad reads,
folks, this show's brought to you by GhostBed. Right now, you can go over to GhostBed, a wonderful company, and you could save up to 40, possibly even 50% based off of whatever you may have heard recently. GhostBed is a company that supports first responders, veterans. They even stoop so low as firefighters. Go over to ghostbed.com. Use the offer code WOLFPACK. You could save over there a lot of money. And, of course, we appreciate them because they've supported Failure to Stop since the very beginning and long after I am fired for being tardy. So our thanks to GhostBed for supporting Failure to Stop. And, of course, everybody here loves GhostBed because they're made in the good old USA. You know, if I had slept on a ghost bed, I probably would have been on time today.
Touche.
Well, you're here now. That's all that matters.
But I haven't eaten yet. That's why I'm thinking about Factor meals. If I was smart, I would have Factor meals already in my house, because instead of going to the grocery store or eating on a whim or just begging for food, as I so often do in the streets, Factor meals will have food brought right to your house, reverse trick or treat style. That's right. They have over 300 options. You can go on their website well in advance before you're hangry, before you're tired, before you're mad at the world, and you can have anything that you like over there delivered to your house, reverse trick or treat style. They also support first responders, and that's why we love them. Go over to Factor Meals, use the offer code WOLFPACK50 for 50% off of your first week. That's right, a massive discount to make it easy and fun for you to have delicious, fresh, not frozen food delivered right to your house. These are, gentlemen, these are not Hungry Man dinners. This is not frozen stuff. Come on now. Get out of here. We appreciate Factor Meals for making life easy in a world where groceries are so expensive and the food at grocery stores just isn't that good. Go to Factor Meals. Good alternative. Also, the Wellness Company. You can own your health, own your wellness, and own your freedom with the Wellness Company. Go over to the website. Use the offer code WOLFPACK. You could save, I believe, 10%. You can get aids for your digestion, your metabolism, all the stuff your body's already doing. If you want to get supplements like melatonin to help you sleep or to have bizarre dreams, you can go over there to the Wellness Company and you can get medicines that are designed by top doctors. Gentlemen, top men. That's right. Absolutely. You can go over to the Wellness Company and you can get prescriptions, contagion kits, first aid kits, whatever it is you need to survive the next catastrophe. And believe me, Wednesday's the show for catastrophes. Not only because we're talking about the news, because it's a show that I am currently being involved in. It's got to be considered a catastrophe. If the Wellness Company could give you a pill that would make a podcast go better, I would have already subscribed to that. Please go over there. We appreciate that. Wellness Company, use the offer code WOLFPACK. Is he still doing the old We Defy Foundation stuff?
Yeah, he's still taking the donations for it. I can't remember what there's $1,000 threshold, and then if you get to $1,200, the $1,000 is, I can't remember what he's doing, the exact time limit, but he's rolling with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and if he gets to 1,200, then Anthony's going to fly up and he's going to wrestle in a Hulk Hogan outfit, I think is what he said he was going to do.
Oh my God.
Horrifying beyond comparison. We must make this happen. All of our super chats, anything earmarked for the We Defy Foundation is going to go to the We Defy Foundation. We Defy provides veterans with coping mechanisms that have to deal with their military actions. Basically, they get to go do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? They get to have wellness goals, things to help them get out of bed. But most importantly, they get to go out to the mat and square off against their fellow service member. And in a fit of PTSD, imagine that person as the reincarnation of Saddam Hussein. And then they just go at it. They roll around on the floor until both are tuckered out. And then they go straight to bed. Go to WeDefyFoundation.org. And it's a wonderful charity that they're doing over there. We appreciate them. So go on over there. So for all these reasons and more, please keep listening to Failure to Stop. And if you love us, You will go to the people who support us financially, because otherwise, this is over.
Gone.
This is over.
This ship sets sail.
The ship will leave.
You could cause the USS Titanic.
Yes, this will be the end of us. We need money. I don't know about you guys, but I'm very anti-slavery.
I'm with you. I like money too.
Don't want to do this for free. I'm acknowledging the chats now. Damn it, Falk narrator. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to certain of you. Cupcakes and cameos. When was the last time you were in one of my shows? What the hell? This is why I just sleep through Wednesday, because there's certain people that just are not Armory Night. God's sakes. All right.
It's just a different crowd. And that's what it is. Day shift and night shift, two different crowds.
Yeah, that's you know what? That's exactly what it is. And me trying to show up for day shift is what we're all dealing with. All right. Let's do the news.
Let's do the news. So John, do you know, like, not now, our border is completely wide open, but in years past, when we were taking refugees in, there's usually some process some questioning that we normally do. And one of the questions that we normally ask is, did you pass through another country that you could have resided in and just still came on? Because you're no longer a refugee. You're trying to.
Yeah. If you get to a safe country to get here, then you're kind of scamming the system. I see what you're laying down.
Yep. So if there are, we'll go ahead and say, safe countries in the Middle East that could take refugees from Palestine, why are they not taking them? Is question number one. Question number two is, why would we put them on planes and bring them over here to the United States?
Well, first of all, which country in the Middle East is safe? I mean, some of them are more desirable than others, but even a country like Jordan, is not especially safe. But I'm sure that there are some of those. The reason for that, of course, Deadleg, is that the whole refugee thing is a scam. We apply refugee to people that we just want to import them in because they're going to vote certain ways in the election. I'm sure that you saw recently in the news that the federal judge supported whatever the decision was made locally in D.C. that non-citizens can vote in elections. That's what it's always about. I don't know why we even have to skirt around the issue. I appreciate the brain teaser, but who are we kidding? It's all about just bringing in people by the boatloads. It always has been, but now they're very, very unashamed about it, to the point now where we're actually hemorrhaging people into this country.
Well, and I think our country always seems to be like the Florence Nightingale of the world. We bring everybody in here when we don't even take care of the people that we already have.
That damn Statue of Liberty. I've been lobbying to have that thing pulled down for years. It's an eyesore. It's the wrong color. It's supposed to be copper colored. I don't know if you guys remember that. It's copper colored at one point, but it's so French too. Ruins the skyline in there in New York, and everyone thinks that the whole "bring me your poor," you're filthy, you're smelly, you're urine soaked. They think that's all like codified law. They're like, well, it's in the law that we have to let immigrants in and all this. Like, no, that is just an idea. It's just a poet. It's just a poem in there. Give me a break.
So if we bring them all here, but we're giving billions and billions of aid to over there, what's left for them here?
That's a good point. Why are we sending all this aid overseas and then bringing the people in? It's like we're keeping them in poverty by bringing them to this country.
It's very counterproductive.
Because people here in the United States that are paying taxes, that are American citizens, that are actually supposed to be here, we're asking the government that same question. Like, what? We're actually paying citizens. Why are illegals getting benefits that we're not? And
I may be entitled to benefits. I was born in this country, damn it. I'm what you call a Native American. That joke
I don't know if we
lands,
can use that. I don't know if we can use that. I don't know if we can use that's John. Jonathan Bates.
I've just
look at pictures.
I have just been disavowed by my own podcast. Keep going, Deadleg.
No, but it's a question that we're sending billions over there and bringing them. Then the other side of this proposal is bringing them here. We already have, on the low end, 7 to 10 million. On the high end, even more than that. You realize that this is 7 to 10 million people. That's larger than the population of almost half of the states in the country. So half of the United States has been replaced with people that don't they're not adding anything to here. They're not paying tax. They're only here to take away from. And we're at some point, this system is going to break.
Well, at what point? You have to ask yourself, because like all of our money's already fake and made up, and we're already like $34 trillion in debt, and they print money like it's monopoly money, and none of it's based on anything. At some point, the system's going to topple once confidence in the American dollar topples, because that's really all that it's based on, right? We're long since the gold standard. Fort Knox is empty. It's all a scam. This country and our economics and our Federal Reserve, it all has the integrity of a Ponzi scheme at this point. That's all based just on confidence of the American dollar. This is actually why so many other countries have their official currency being the United States dollar. I don't know if you knew that, but a lot of countries around the world do that. But eventually, it will topple. We're in a slow toppling right now, as the government is printing this money, devaluing your currency, runaway inflation, which, by the way, is all on purpose. It's a hidden tax on the people. It's a way of basically devaluing our debt. We say we're $34 trillion in debt, which is a number that, by the way, neither one of you and I can comprehend. We're like civil servants. We can't understand that money.
Right.
It's all intentionally on purpose. But what does it boil down to? It's all about power, right? There's an old saying, nobody ever shoots at Santa Claus. Okay. So like if someone's providing you with your freedom, if someone's providing you with your food and your welfare and everything else, and you become completely dependent and subservient on the state, you're going to be voting for that person forever, if elections even have integrity at all.
Well, and
you make a good point, Deadleg. I don't know why I have anything scheduled after this, because it's not. Outlook's pretty bleak.
Well, and the confidence in the government has dwindled, and especially over the last 3.5 years, and the citizens don't have faith in our own government, and then they start doing dumb shit like this, to where we're looking around going, why do they get to come in here and be given all these other things that we have to work our asses off for? So they're shooting themselves in the foot even more so than they already have.
And I understand that we've got ties with other countries and allegiances with other countries and then the UN, and I understand that. But at the same point, what military value, what value to the United States people does any of this conflict have anything to do with us? Is it stopping you from going to the grocery store? Are you not being able to get your medicine? Can you not take your wife to go out to dinner? Can you not take your kids to school? Is that stopping you from it? None of that is stopping us. So we are steamrolling towards a war. And I have the next part up is, this is an exchange between Matt Gaetz and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. This is about 2 minutes long. This is yesterday in Congress. Have you guys seen this yet?
Yeah.
John is muted.
I'm sorry. I do that sometimes to cut down on my extra noise, or just to remove me from the podcast. I said I haven't seen it. Go ahead and play it.
All right, here we go.
Just said there'll be about 1,000 U.S. service members operating a peer system off of Gaza. How many of them will have guns, Mr. Secretary?
Well, typically all of the deployed service members carry guns, and they have the ability to protect themselves if challenged.
So if someone from land in Gaza shoots at our service members who are on the $320 million pier that we're building, you're telling me our service members can shoot back?
They have the right to return fire to protect themselves. Now,
well, do we think that's so? Now I want to move to the likelihood that you think someone from land in Gaza might shoot at our service members on this pier. Do you think that's a likely scenario?
That's possible, yes.
This is a very telling moment, Mr. Secretary, because you've said something that's quite possible that could happen, right? Shots from Gaza on our service members, and then the response, our armed service members shooting live fire into Gaza. That is a possible outcome here, so that we can become the Port Authority and run this pier. Right?
That's correct. I expect that we will always have the ability to protect ourselves. Don't you think that counts as
boots on the ground? President Biden told the country that we weren't going to have boots on the ground in Gaza.
And we won't.
Okay, but you guys parse the distinction between, like, when Americans think boots on the ground, they think Americans in harm's way or engaged actively in a conflict. You guys seem to be sort of saying that boots on a pier connected to the ground, connected to service members shooting into Gaza doesn't count as boots on the ground?
It does not.
I think you're going to find the American people have a different perspective on that. And if we're going to...
What do you mean that doesn't count? That's the whole point. When we say no boots on the ground, we literally don't want that situation is born out of, so many reactionary or so many reactions to the loss of American service members, most notably Vietnam, right? Like, we talk about whether or not a conflict is worth our involvement. And we all, we're much more likely to say, well, we could send cluster bombs, we could send over fighter jets, we could fight it in the air, but we definitely don't want our boys, we don't want boots on the ground, right? We don't want them in direct harm's way. In pretty much every scenario that we've had for all of our lives here, a Gulf War,
Afghanistan,
Keef, right? Grenada goes back to kind of more Kiefer's era.
Civil War.
I wasn't alive during the Civil War, so good for you guys. But it's obvious, they say no boots on the ground, but it's just as about as worthwhile as anything else Biden's ever said. He says there's no boots on the ground, but this guy's making the perfect point that if they're in a situation where they're receiving gunfire in the first place, let's not even talk about rules of engagement, whether or not they could fire back. Just receiving means that this whole no boots on the ground thing's full of shit. You guys,
you're close enough. If you're receiving fire, you're way too close, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the way they do these hearings, it cracks me up because it's almost like a comedy festival, because all of these politicians will throw out questions and not let the person answer and talk over them. But Gaetz he had a great point. And I typically don't agree with a lot of the politicians, the way they handle, these types of hearings, interviews, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But he led Austin down a primrose path of grenades that he just stepped on every landmines and stepped on every one of them.
Yeah.
And and to his point, the American people are going to have a different thought process on that versus what you just said. No, that doesn't count. And these are people that are put into these high ranking positions. That's who's running this fucking country.
Because here's the questions that come from the other side of that. If we're sending billions in aid, are they not able to use some of that to take and spend it on their own workforce, and they could do it themselves? Secondly, if they can't do it themselves because it's too dangerous, why are we putting our own troops now in harm's way, as Matt Gaetz said? That's asking for it. When you talk about, like, when we get to the next part of this, the riots and I'm not calling them protests, the riots and takeovers on universities, you're going to look for the agitators. If we're looking for agitators, us sending a bunch of boats and building a big old pier right in the area of the other end of the firing range, that's agitating. That's definitely not going to stop things in the Middle East. They need to let them make their own decisions over there. If we're going to send aid, send aid. If we're going to send people, let's make a decision. Let's not just do this back and forth here and there, because what's going to happen is someone's going to shoot at a troop. Then we're going to return fire. And then the person that shot us in the first place, they're not going to catch the bullet. This is going to be a Chicago drive-by. Some innocent person's going to catch it. And now the U.S. murdered some innocent person on foreign soil from a pier that's not part of the soil. And then we're going to have this international incident, or we're just going to just steamroll right into the war. We're going to go, okay, well, that happened, so that's what we're going to justify to start attacking this and that. It's just all ridiculous, because
the bottom line is perception is reality. Perception's reality. Period.
Exactly.
The thing is, because we're in an election year, though, they have to. Who is profiting from the status quo? Whenever you're looking at any political situation, you have to say who's coming out ahead by this right now. And it's because we're in an election year. We don't know. The people that are in charge are always blowing whichever way the political winds are blowing. And people are very, very unsure about which is the best way to do this, right? So sustaining this state of tension of, are we in a war or are we not in a war, or how many wars are we involved in? It's all very much about creating uncertainty. And there's a psychological thing about how, you go with the devil that you know, or you go with the stabilized. If you feel like the situation that you're in is very, very unstable, you're likely to just go with known quantities. They say, you don't want to switch a horse midstream. This is very, very, very typical, where the people who are in power, the people who have power to make decisions, they're stoking the situation, right? They're making it as bad as they can without mitigating it or taking any firm action, not going one way or the other. Deadleg, you nailed it, that they're sort of having their cake and eating it too in terms of policies. So they're not having to make any big decisions. They're going to alienate huge amounts of voters, and like I said, stoking a situation so that people are as afraid as possible. Fear, uncertainty, crisis, these are all tools of big government. They've always been the tools of the left, but they've always been tools of tyrants. And that's exactly the situation that we're in right now. And the news, of course, is a part of that, because you can't have propaganda without some sort of distribution machine. So my thanks to mass media for making sure that everyone is as uncomfortable as possible.
Because Keith, do you remember voting on us sending troops over there? Do you remember voting on us going to war with anybody? I don't remember we had a vote on that.
Nope. But it's a war of words. They're using, they're articulating the way they say these things. Well, we're not going to have boots on the ground. And you got Austin going, well, we're not having it. Well, yeah, you are. But they use that and say, well, we never said that we were going to do that. So it comes out into semantics.
When was the last time this country went to war?
Last time I remember us actually hey, we're going to go knock some teeth out was back in the early 2000s when we went into Iraq.
Yeah,
that was a strong statement when Bush announced that we would be invading Iraq because we needed to deal with the fact that they weren't allowing in weapons inspectors, and we had strong suspicions of weapons of mass destruction. Tinfoil hat Tansy will tell you that had a lot to do with the CIA wanting to have their continued operations and lying to President Bush, like maybe they lied to Kennedy and Johnson and all the rest. The last time we declared war was literally Pearl Harbor. War is supposed to be declared by Congress. Why is it that every action this country is taking is never being done appropriately? I had this discussion with someone the other day. I posted some meme about Biden being an ice cream eating idiot. And his response was, can you believe this guy's running the country? I said, why is the president running the country at all? We have no vantage point for this, but I'm going to tell you what this country was supposed to be, and I'm going to blame a person that you're not ready to blame. It used to be the case that we dealt with business in this country the way that a county commission would or a school board would, right? Everything basically gets decided by a legislative body. We all sit down, we all talk about it. We got Robert's Rules of Order. I second that motion. Objection. It was frilly wigs. We did it great job. And then we had a crisis in this country called nullification, where our local governments are saying, do we really have to do what the federal governments do? What if we make a law saying we're not going to do that? And so for the first time, we have federalism under attack. And then all of a sudden, local governments are not getting along with federal governments. I think you guys know I'm talking about the aforementioned Civil War. We had a president in office, great guy, really good looks, clearly is my inspiration for how I look every day. I'm talking about Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was a very good president, but he did some things that were not very good. He suspended habeas corpus, which is basically the law that says you have to provide reason for someone in custody. You can't just hold people indefinitely. He declared that we were in a state of insurrection, which is why he was able to do that. But when we came out of the Civil War, what happened was a massively, massively, massively empowered chief executive, to the point where because Congress was compromised, half of Congress was in rebellion, the country was divided. Literally divided, half was gone. Half of the party left the room. We had to have a chief executive come in and keep everything together. And ever since Lincoln, we've had very, very strong presidents. In this post, I said, you know what the president's supposed to be for? that if we need a decision on something by the end of business today, and we can't get Congress to make a decision before the end of today, other than that, every decision is supposed to be made by Congress. The decision to go to war, the decision to be involved in foreign affairs, this is not the decision of the United States president. It's actually the function of Congress. And Congress, just like the president, what I alluded to earlier, powerful people, they don't want to make a decision because that person that makes that decision, that votes yes or no to go to war, which, by the way, they're the same person that votes yes or no on other important issues that need to be decided congressionally, like abortion. For 50 years, we basically have 9 people in black robes decide the fate of millions of children because Congress would not take a moral stance. They would not have the moral courage to say, I'm for women's rights or I'm for the rights of babies or whatever. They just stay on the sidelines. They blame the president for everything that goes wrong, and they completely abdicate their role. We're supposed to be a country represented by the people. We do that through Congress. We do that most directly through the House of Representatives. You want to know who your most influential person is in deciding the fate of this country? Guess what? It's your local congressman. It's the person in the House, the person in the Senate, so even farther away from you because they don't only get elected every 6 years. But are you holding your local congressperson to account? Now, they only say, well, I'm only one of 435 people in there. There's only so much I could do. That is such bullshit. That's abdicating. That's abdicating the foundation of our government to say that you can't do anything. And I'm going to tell you right now, congressperson, you're one of 435. I'm one of like 37 million. I've got no power. That's why I vote for you in the first place, is to represent me.
Yeah.
But they say, well, the president's doing this and the president's doing that. Congress is the check on the president. They're the oversight on the president, checks and balances. And yet Congress, when was the last time Congress did anything? And Congress is so bad. I love it when they take a day off anymore. But Congress is supposed to be the one that's deciding whether or not we go to war, whether or not we're involved in these things. Again, I could go back to Nixon and the War Powers Act and how much the president's able to do in a quote unquote time of emergency, which I know I'm just calling back, the Roman Senate to you guys. But if you want to know why things are so fucked up in this country, it's because Congress has absolutely abdicated their responsibility and their power to check the president. And this country is so authoritarian and so autocratic because we all think that the president's up to everything. And if you want to know why things continue to be unstable and why people continue to be in fear, it's because every 4 years we have a massive change in policy, right? Are we going to have Keystone pipelines? Are we going to be going to war? Are we going to be having massive immigration? We'll find out this fall. It should never be that way.
Stay tuned.
It should never be that way because all these decisions should be in the hands of Congress makers. I have got to go get some cocaine and Gatorade, guys. Keep going. Get me all wound up.
Oh, I love it when John's wound up. It's great.
Get John wound up first thing in the morning. Well, here, I'll help wound you up even more. You guys have been paying attention to what's been going on across the country with the universities?
Yeah. It's
yeah, I love these entitled brats who have been fought with bananas and are calling in. Did you guys see that thing where one of them dials 911 and she goes, "My friend's inside and she's in the protest and she needs emergency medical help." And the dispatcher's like, "Well, what's wrong with her?" And she goes, "Well, she hasn't been able to change her tampon. And it might happen that she could possibly get toxic shock syndrome." And you could tell she's currently reading the warning on the box.
Oh,
right?
my God.
And she's calling on behalf of a friend. So this person does not have toxic shock syndrome. Keith, we're not talking symptoms of an acute medical emergency, but she's calling on behalf of her friend because her friend wants to get the hell out of there. And she realized she's in a situation now where she can't give up and leave without, basically, letting down all of her friends and
she'd be
losing all of her face. Also, on this 911 call, I wish I had it handy. I'd play it for her, but she's just like, so she needs emergency medical help and she cannot leave. And if she gets up, she'll be arrested. And of course, me, the pragmatist, I'm like, if you have a medical emergency, you better go get arrested. That's the smart thing to do for a couple of reasons. Number one, you'll be a hero to your cause because you to be taken out of there in handcuffs and you being dragged away by that trooper or whatever, which Deadleg, I hope you have that video queued up if you haven't played that.
I didn't pull that one.
Guys,
it's one of the few that didn't
look
pull.
that up. It's the current situation of this country, right? These overgrown entitled brats who are all throwing a tantrum. And the adult comes into the room in the form of a police officer. But anyway, she wanted out of that. She wanted to help her friend get out of that situation. Her friend didn't even have a medical emergency. And So they're tying up 911 resources with calling in non-medical emergencies on behalf of third parties. And I wish I could play that for you because it's such a childish and entitled phone call. And I don't get why these kids who have no life experience think that they're doing anything. Babylon Bee nails it all the time. Do you think the Palestinians, do you think Hamas right now is looking at them and saying like, well, once our worldwide caliphate of destroying all non-believers and the fatwa on the West, once that's all completed, we're going to give these guys the quickest death, because they're on our side. Are you fucking kidding me? This is what happens when people were born after 9/11. I told people to stop having sex after 9/11 so we didn't have kids who didn't know about 9/11, but nobody listened. Keith?
I'm trying to find. I had that video, and when I went back to get it, it was taken down.
Oh man,
Here, I have it, but I don't have the sound with it.
Well, play whatever you got.
Just picture a whiny baby.
Yeah, play. Oh, beautiful, beautiful tackle. I'm sure Eric has a wonderful comment about the free and open rugby tackle there.
Well, that's good for a legal shift. That was good technique.
That was very, very good technique. It will be banned in the NFL soon, I'm sure.
Yes. No, I pulled it up because I was going to label it "taking out the trash" for our last episode.
Very, very, very nice. Yes.
When I went to go back to it, I could not find it.
But Deadleg, I'm sure you actually have something to say about all this.
Yeah, like before we get too far into it, I was around during the civil or like how many still called the civil rights movement. I wasn't around for that. I wasn't around when Martin Luther King was around. I wasn't around when Rosa Parks was
around. State shooting. If you don't know what the Kent State shooting is, look up that one.
Yep, I wasn't alive for all of that stuff. But when I was in school, they explained to us what a protest was, and they explained that if you do, like, say you're going to do a hunger strike, you don't get 40 minutes into the hunger strike and then call the police and go, "Hey, I'm on a hunger strike and they won't let me have food." Well, no, you've kind of caused your own problem. Secondly,
that sounds like what inmates do, to be honest with you. Like that's pretty much like what my experience is out of prison.
But the other side of it, if you're going to, the part of the protest is you have to show some hardship to get some emotional support from people that have nothing to do with what you're doing. You're trying to get support for it. And a lot of that is to try to pull on those emotional heartstrings by doing something grandiose, but not illegal. You have to, there's a complete difference between a protest and a riot and civil disobedience. And there's like, I wouldn't say it's even a blurred line. Once you start stopping people from freely moving about and otherwise freely move about areas, it's not a protest anymore. Once you take over a building, it's not a protest anymore. Once you start standing out demand letters, it's not a protest.
No,
that's a takeover.
Yeah. You make an excellent point. Passive resistance is what Martin Luther King Jr. and others would call for. Basically, sit-ins. You go in and you sit down. What does that mean? First of all, it means you don't call 911 saying that you have a reason to be taken from the scene by ambulance and not arrested by anyone or questioned. They want to be able to cry and do it without consequences and be absolutely entitled even in the midst of this. And they don't understand hardship or suffering either. In that incident that I was talking about, I think this was at Vanderbilt, by the way, with this, if anyone was really interested in hearing that 911 call or whatever, that was the protest at Vanderbilt. But the next day after this kid gets sprung from jail, he gets out there and he's on his loudspeaker and he's talking about how, he was denied food and water for 24 hours. But by the way, he locked himself in that building, decided to go to that building and decided not to peaceably surrender or come out. And he was arrested at one point, for whatever, because the people who are running the colleges actually have more cojones to deal with these things than anyone in the federal government. But he gets on his loudspeaker and talks about how I was in prison, I was in jail, but I had a better experience than here at Vanderbilt. At least there I could have water and food and I could rest and I could be with my friends. And if I had been there, I swear to God, it's so good that I'm like confined to a basement here somewhere in the fucking moon, because I'd be like, why don't you withdraw from college then? Or like commit yourself to a life of crime. You could go to jail as often as you want. It's just ridiculous that you think that you can go 24 hours, one day, and you think that you're submitted to any kind of hardship. Folks, I've gone without water for 1 day because I've just been busy. This guy did it. And he thought that he actually endured something.
But the difference is you're an upstanding member of society that is contributing, and these
Fairly
fuckers are just
upstanding.
taking.
Yeah,
They are just taking, and there's a phrase called "life is full of choices."
Yeah, it's just ridiculous how little they're accomplishing, because like I said, Palestine does not give a fuck about them. Palestine does not care when a local city passes an ordinance in support of Palestine. This is all the worst kind of virtue signaling, right? Like, we're a little bit past beyond, you know, changing your Instagram profile or whatever. We think that we're taking substantive change. We think we're political activists because we're laying around on the college campuses, which have no political power to change or do anything. By the way, colleges are not influential. They're just the sole world that these children are in, right? They think that the college is important to them, so their college is important to everyone. The rest of us are all driving past you on our way to work. We don't give a fuck about what's going on in your college campus, pal.
And potentially driving through you because I'm going to work.
Yeah.
Get out of the road.
I remember a few years ago, if you guys remember the safety pin movement, which is one of the many recent things on the left, the Occupy Wall Street movement. People were being disorderly to the point where they were obstructing things. There are stories and tales, and I could look them up if you want me to recall them and completely take over the podcast, but of ambulances not being able to take patients to the hospital because these people are out in the streets and protesting and doing these things. Martin Luther King would have never have approved of that. He would have never approved of someone else being placed in danger or because of your protest. If you were going to go out there and protest, that means you signed up to get your ass kicked and you hoped that the world saw it happening. It was basically to expose the violence that's inherent in the system. If you're going to go out there and peaceably protest, then the world needs to see, the police officers sicking you with attack dogs and spraying you down with fire hoses. And it's to expose that violence, right? But these kids are going out to these colleges and they're having these sit-ins and nobody gives a fuck because they're not affecting anything. They're not convincing anybody.
I can dumb it down to very, very simple terms.
Dumb it down, please. Thank you.
So these protesters went to McDonald's and they got their Happy Meal and they wanted their cheeseburger with no pickles on it. But
yeah,
McDonald's screwed up and they have pickles on their Happy Meal. And they went to Home Depot and started protesting there.
Oh, very good point. Yep.
Because Home Depot not only does not do anything with food, they have nothing to do with the problem that they're trying to get a fix to.
Mm-hmm.
Columbia University, Ohio University, Emory, Indiana, UT Austin, Cal Poly, USC, University of Minnesota. I'm just reading off all these. These are from Edward Snowden shared this. These are just a few of the places over the last couple of days where there have been all these the civil unrest. I'm not calling it a protest. I don't remember the last time I heard the troops from Ohio State deploying to Gaza. They got a really good football team, I hear, but I don't remember last time. They don't have troops deployed.
Yeah.
None of these universities have troops deployed.
You make a very excellent point. I mentioned Kent State earlier, right? Well, the protest at Kent State was about Vietnam. And back in those days, if you were not in college, if you did not have some sort of deference or whatever, your ass was going to be drafted and you were going to go over to Vietnam.
By
And
luck.
so, yes. And so a lot of 18-year-olds had a very visible stake in this, right? Like if they don't believe in the war or they just don't want to throw away their future because of something Lyndon Johnson is doing, which I have come around to their way of thinking. Actually, at one point, the voting age was 21 and they could be drafted at 18 until Nixon lowered the voting age, if you can believe that. There was a point where this country could send you to war, but you didn't have anything to say about it.
Right.
But these kids had a stake in Vietnam. They saw their friends leaving and not coming back by the hundreds and by the thousands. What is it that these people at Vanderbilt or University of Minnesota, what is their stake? There's no draft. No one's forcing them to go over there. And get good news, guys. There are no boots on the ground. There's 0% chance you're going to be shot at, according to official policy. So what's this all about? Well, like I said, it comes down to virtue signaling. It comes down to, frankly, anti-Semitism in the face of all the reports that they need to be doing on the value of inclusion. It's actually very, very typical leftist and Democrat policy. Actually, very, very, very anti-Semitic. Deadleg.
It's ironic that the ad that's up here is for toilet papers, but the question that I asked you guys in the group chat, because we talked about this last night a little bit before we were coming on, and I said, well, we kind of got to let the next 12 hours play out because I think more overnight's going to happen, and we're going to come to find out how many of these people that are getting arrested, how many of them are actually students there. Austin's Gaza camp, there were 77 people arrested. Only 46 of them had anything to, no, 46 of them had nothing to do with the university. So 46 people either were living there or, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of places across the country. Maybe they traveled there. Maybe this is organized. Maybe there's something to this because Republican, I think Comer is his name. He said yesterday afternoon, he had this to say.
The failure of Columbia University to address the pro-Hamas mob is an appalling lack of leadership. Now we are witnessing copycat anti-Israel protests pop up at universities across the country. These radical protests threatening violence against Jews are anything but organic. It appears global elites are funding these hateful protests in pop-up tent cities. These are the same groups that fund other radical agendas, including diminishing America's energy production and pushing soft on crime policies that harm the American people. The House Oversight Committee will follow the money trail, expose it to the American people, and seek to hold bad actors funding hate accountable. I want to thank Speaker Johnson and House leadership for coordinating this, and the House Oversight Committee looks forward to working with other committees to investigate this serious problem.
And what serious problem is he talking about? I'm going to show you a couple of examples of the riots that are going on. Oh, wait, this isn't an example of the riot. This is an example of people at the riot training to fight. This isn't a protest. This is not a protest. I'm not showing you a protest. I'm showing you behind the lines of the protest. They're training.
It looks like Shakespeare in the Park to me, but I get what you're saying.
Just because you have a megaphone doesn't make it a protest.
Yep. So where does this go? It goes from there. It scenes like this. It scenes like this. More scenes like this. And to me, this one is the worst of all.
What I can tell you is that this is a very intense escalation from
North
how it
Carolina.
has been for the past several
Chief of
hours.
Police
There was a
having
rally
water
and silent
thrown
vigil
on him,
for
or
Palestine
some sort of liquid.
that occurred
Cups
for
thrown at
several
him.
after they
Things thrown at him.
I don't know if you can see right now. They're
And what they're
taking the
doing right now
Palestinian flag
is
down
the police
off
are guarding
the
other
flagpole,
police officers so they can
was
take the Palestinian
put
flag
up there
down
about 30
and put up
minutes
the
or
United
so
States
ago
flag
by
on U.S. soil.
protesters. They
I'm
took
going
the
to remind you
American
of that.
flag down, raised the Palestinian
Instead of
flag.
doing anything about anything, about the assaults, the multiple assaults that happened to the chief of police, instead of doing anything, he stood there and then walked back into the crowd. That's the leadership from the department that they have.
Well,
and
I think that.
I have to commend him, first of all, just for being there. I mean, how many chiefs of police won't even be there? So, I mean, I commend him for being there, but either like you said, he's a weak leader. I mean, certainly the look isn't good. But we also have to remember something else too. As much as that frustrates us as first responders, that being the adults in the room, being the bigger person in the room, means that we're the ones who are going to show the most restraint. Is this guy who's throwing water on the police chief? Does he deserve to be charged with assault? Absolutely. I hope that that's happening. But what that person throwing water on him is trying to do is basically he's trying to get the chief to just go and have all the police officers go after and start kicking the absolute shit out of him. So
as soon as he reacts,
in some ways the police officer is playing, the police chief's playing a smarter game, and I commend him for being there. But you're right, to the rest of us who feel like we're represented in that encounter by the police, we feel frustrated because it's like, why are you taking this? Why are all of us taking this, right? Why are all of us taking this from these entitled brats who, by the way, are all going to college paid for by you and me? They go to these universities and it's all a money laundering scheme. They all get their tickets punched so that they can get money from the Department of Education, which is just money out of the United States coffers, which does not come from the government. It comes from you and me. Why are we tolerating it? Why are these universities tolerating it? Don't they have, when I went to school, we had codes of conduct, but like if you had a drink at my school, you could be subject to disciplinary action, including expulsion. If you're committing assault on a law enforcement officer in your college, why do you have college to return to? You should just be trespassed at that point. The people leading the colleges should just be like, son, you don't go to school here anymore. Well, we don't have any strong leadership in the schools either. But Deadleg, go ahead. You are making excellent points.
You got to be able to draw the line in the sand. And if you're standing like I'll go with you with understanding that he did show a lot of restraint there, but you're the leadership of your agency. You're out there as the leadership to show, hey, I'm here with you guys in the shit. I'm literally getting shit thrown on me with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do something about this. We need to stop talking about we need to start doing stuff. We need to draw the line in the sand and say, okay, this is it. If you cross this line, a Georgia State trooper is going to tackle you and then pick you up and physically drag you off of campus. This is stuff that is not allowed. It's against the law. It's against the student code of conduct, and it's not allowed here. Not only that, the backside of this is you've got students that have paid thousands and thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars that think of where we are in the timeline of things. You have people getting ready to graduate. That's 2024. That if they started college in 2020, they missed their high school graduation because of COVID. Now you've got colleges and universities that are canceling their graduation because of this. They have lost out on so much. They've had so much taken away from them for doing the right thing, all the while watching all of this go down on their campus and nothing happening. If the rules aren't applied equally, then you don't have rules. And as soon as people like us start realizing, hey, no one's following the rules, what happens when we stop following the rules? Because that's the question. Because I caution even like bringing stuff like that up or talk like that, because the next following steps down the line, you're like, oh, well, that's a civil war.
You make a very good point. That the whole premise of our society, the whole premise of justice is that you get what's coming to you. And sometimes we have to make it as simple as, what do you get for doing the right thing and what do you get for doing the wrong thing? Right now, we're not punishing acts of assault like what you just saw in that chief. I don't know if, charges may be coming out of that or similar things, but we're just indulging these things. We're being the bigger people in the room, the better people in the room. But you're right. There's all these people who are on college campuses who are trying to learn, who are trying to pursue degrees in order to better their lives, which whether or not that's even a good idea, we could have a whole other show about. But you're right. What message does this send to people who are abiding by the law?
I've got 2 points real quick.
Go for it, Keith.
With the chief, the way our fucking society and media has portrayed, if he lashes out, he's done for.
You're exactly right.
He loses his pension. He loses everything that he's worked probably 25, 30 years for.
It's no win situation.
It's shitty. Right? Yeah, he's screwed right here. I do appreciate the fact that he's out there, but yes, complete horseshit.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the campuses of kids wanting to do the right thing. They want to go to class and learn. They want to go to graduation. Josh, we talked about that Jewish kid that wasn't allowed through a personal roadblock of like 3 or 4 people. I would have burned right through him personally. He handled himself very, very well, way better than I would have. But he's trying to go to class. He goes, I go this way every day. You are blocking me. Why are you blocking me? I'm allowed to be here. Here's my ID. I do belong here. So yeah, I mean, it's screwing it for everybody that wants to be productive members.
Yeah.
And you have these shitbags that most of them aren't affiliated. They're just trying to, make a quote unquote point. But like we went through riots in 2000 here, 99 or 2000, when Timothy Thomas got shot by a Cincinnati police officer. Our downtown looked like Grenada.
And that says something for Ohio, folks.
They were burning down. It was majority African Americans downtown burning their own stores. and nobody went downtown for like 5 years after that.
Yeah.
And then finally it started rebuilding. But you had people being trucked in, just like, you know, all the George Floyd riots. People were getting bussed in that didn't have any stake.
There were people doing that in 2020 as well. Where I live, you know, we're pretty far dissociated from anything important going on in the country. You know, really nothing that we do really matters here. We're like Ohio, but without a football team. It's pretty much where we are. And sure enough, at the local mall, all of a sudden we knew this was happening well in advance. We had a heads up that something was going to happen. And I famously refer to it as the Battle of Red Robin, right? Because we had a small skirmish out there, protest. We did have tear gas being deployed, some property damage. We actually had to send our police officers over there to help, even though it was out of our jurisdiction. And all these folks got bussed in. So somebody's out there paying people to be professional protesters to get on a bus and travel to these things and to be agitators. And this is all like very, very deep, like psyops type shit. Who is it on earth that's powerful enough and important enough and shady as shit enough and it is liberal enough and is amoral? Who's amoral enough to do all this stuff, Deadleg?
Besides Eric, George Soros comes up.
Eric's, I'm going to go ahead and just say Eric's not quite, he's not really a mastermind. He wouldn't be able to plan a protest. He could plan something that would happen later today, but really not much tomorrow.
Yeah. Like, it's where we go back to, or I go back to the same thing. I say a lot of these things, follow the money. Where's the money? Because these students aren't students. They have nothing to do with the university. So you're not going to the people that would have the ability to actually do something for the cause of what you're trying to get change for. If you want us to do something about this, you need to go to the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's the big white building behind the fence.
Or Congress. Don't forget your local congressman.
So, but we've shown not only that these people have nothing to do with the university, that the cause that they're fighting for isn't going to, they have nothing to do. Let's say Columbia University goes, okay, yeah, we support the ceasefire.
Yeah.
And then
yes,
tomorrow,
you're right, Deadleg. Let's take this to its logical conclusion. Let's suppose the university says, you know what, you guys win. And this would be the smartest thing to do, Deadleg. God, you nailed it. You know what they should do? The presidents of the university should be like, we are defeated by your powerful ideals. We are vacating the campus, and everyone who's all the students are given, you know, an extra spring break. Everyone else leaves. All these protesters are there, and all of a sudden they're there by themselves. It would show how utterly pointless and ineffectual they are. I remember
it turns into another fucking Chaz, is what it does.
Well, it turns into a Chaz, but a Chaz without a cause, right? Because no one's watching. And it doesn't give them the feelings of accomplishing anything. I remember when I was a kid, I grew up in the South, and at one point there was kind of a dust up because even though this was like the year, I'm going to say 2000, 2001, there was a planned meeting of the Ku Klux Klan at a city library, right? And this was made lots of local news that the Klan was back, baby, and they were going to all meet at the city library at Ruin story time with the kids. And I was talking to somebody who was a girl. She was kind of an intellectual. She was smarter than me for sure. But I said, you know, what do you think about that? Like, are you going to go down and protest that shit? Because there were people who were going to protest the Klan meeting. She goes, that's exactly what they want. They just want attention. We had somebody at high school who figured this out, right? So somebody already smarter than these kids at Columbia and Vanderbilt. The cameras are giving them attention. The news media is giving them attention. In some ways, the police counter protesting is giving them attention. If we did vacate the premises and show them that, oh, sure, you guys can have your moral victory. What does it accomplish? Because it doesn't affect anything in terms of policy in the Middle East. It doesn't affect Congress. It doesn't affect the president. It would completely take all the flame out of their fire. There would be nothing left because they would realize that there's nothing there. The only thing I could say about that might undermine my own point is that now everybody is their own TV studio, right? Everybody's got this. Everybody's on TikTok. Everybody's broadcasting everything. But I think the fact that we're trying to meet them on their level, like I said, counter protesting or doing anything with them, it's giving them the attention they want. If we could come up with some sort of policy for dealing with them that vacated their attention, there would be no more air for their fire. It'd be the same thing as throwing a blanket on it, Chief. I'm sure that you can appreciate that analogy. What are your thoughts?
I say just start firing tear gas.
I like how you're like exact opposite. Just start gassing them.
Just lob
rubber bullet machine gun.
Lob the canisters.
And you guys
Bring
are
out
right.
the
That would totally make us feel better, but it would only inspire more people to go out there and do this. Because
if you were a prepared protester, you'd have a gas mask. And
that's
you
true.
Would still sit there.
But these kids, they actually like getting their asses kicked by the police, and they're always going to have these videos, and they're going to show it like, this is the time I stood up against the machine. And sure, I got my ass handed to me, and I was crying and dragged away. But that, I did something. I was an activist for change. I did something for my beliefs. So it would make you and me, all three of us, feel better to just see like a hail of rubber bullets just mow them all down. But that's actually exactly what they want.
Yeah, I know it.
I got one more video before we get out of here. So this is what happens when you start asking these types of questions to the protesters.
To provide food to people who've taken over a building.
Well, first of all, we're saying that they're obligated to provide food to students who pay for a meal plan here.
But not to classes. You don't get to go to class.
It's not delivery. This is not DoorDash, lady.
To allow it to be brought in. I mean, well, I guess it's ultimately a question of what kind of community and obligation Columbia feels it has to its students. Do you want students to die of dehydration and starvation, or get severely ill, even if
You
they disagree
entitled
with
bitch.
you? If the
We
answer
want
is
you to
no,
die.
then you should allow basic. I mean, it's crazy to say because we're on an Ivy League campus, but this is like basic humanitarian aid we're asking for.
Please.
Like, could people please have a glass of water?
But they did put themselves
There's
in that
toilets.
very deliberately in that situation and in that position. So it seems like you're sort of saying, we want to be revolutionaries. We want to take over this building.
Revolutionaries.
Bring us food and water. And
Nobody's asking them to bring anything. We're asking them to not violently stop us from bringing in basic humanitarian aid.
They're stopping the delivery of food.
We are looking for a commitment from them that they will not stop it
But
violently.
they haven't stopped it.
We whatever pizza.
I don't know.
Old man yells at clouds. That's what that boils down to.
Oh man.
You can give them exactly what they're asking for. Not only that, here's another thing. If you can't stand the heat, get out the kitchen.
Can you imagine Che Guevara or like one of these real revolutionaries, someone that actually had like a gun, can you imagine him saying like, I want my DoorDash. I want my honey chipotle chicken crispers. And I want a statement, that you're not going to stop the delivery of that because of community. Can you give me a break? Do they not realize how absolutely stupid and silly they seem? And of course,
She reminds me of Veruca Salt from Willy Wonka. I want it now. Give me my food now. No, guess what? You got water. It's in a toilet. You won't die. You won't die of dehydration. We already talked about this. You can go a little while, but guess what? You have the ability. There's sinks in there. You can have all the water you want. And you're not even going to get charged for it on your meal plan.
Yeah.
Fucking ass clown.
For me, I would enjoy the fuck out of that. Free access to a sink. Normally, like I'm being run out of libraries and things like this. I don't know how you guys clean yourselves in the summertime. In the wintertime, I just get naked and I roll around in the snow like most people. But in the summertime, so I'll go into public buildings, full on Mexican shower, armpits, crotch, face. If I'm feeling like I got to meet somebody, I would take full advantage of this. It would be Mexican showers day and night for me if I was locked up in one of these campus libraries.
Oh my God.
Best news out of all this is I didn't have to turn my final in. So we've got that.
Right.
I know that would be like the one thing that I'd be enjoying about all this nonsense is that not only that, but like think about what's going on campus colleges right now. And we all know maybe what I'm thinking about, but there's some shady shit that could go on in campus colleges. And right now, the administration is so distracted. Campus police, are obviously overwhelmed. They can't do anything. What's going on with the people who are just going to school and bad shit is happening to them, right? Do you guys pick it up when I'm laying down? Like sexual assaults on college campuses is actually very, very common. Mm-hmm. And what's happening because these administrations are having to deal with these non-problems, basically these entitled brats who want commitments from Columbia. Their food won't be interfered with. They're causing huge disruption to as you alluded to earlier, Deadleg, the educational process that they're paying for or that we're paying for. And some of these students have worked really hard to get to where they're at, and look at what they're having to deal with while they're there. And I do feel bad for those few exceptional, hardworking, wonderful people that are probably going to be the movers and shakers of society in the future, who are smart enough to stay out of this kind of trouble, who are smart enough to realize that their futures are more important than ending in a situation where they're getting picked up and hauled away by a police officer. It's just a fucking shame. But I do think that these kids will get tired and eventually go home.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
That's exactly how it'll be. It'll be like a ghost town at that point, with a bunch of trash everywhere.
With lots of trash, like when they were protesting Keystone Pipeline. Though they were protesting Keystone because of how bad it was for the environment and water is life. But when they took off, they literally left like burnt out shells of cars behind. Anyway,
Tents and all that other crap.
And 30 million plastic water bottles on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank you, John and Eric. There's no way that I would have been able to get through this by myself. This has been much easier than the last time when Eric was
Call
gone.
me Eric. You just called me Eric.
Because Eric's gone. John and Keith. Thank you, John.
Eric's here in spirit.
Eric's here in spirit. But thank you guys, because there's no way, obviously, I'd been able to get through this by myself. And thank you to Ghostbed, Factor Meals, and the Wellness Company, because that keeps the lights on. Anything? What do you guys got? You guys are going live tomorrow.
We are.
aren't
We're
you?
going live tomorrow for a special Illegal Shift. Now, some of you are watching who have never seen Illegal Shift. I'm talking to you, Chris Duquette. What is Illegal Shift? It's the exact same thing as this show, but like we talk more about like sports. So like if you're tired of like beating your face against the wall about the insanity of Congress and Joe Biden and George Soros and college stuff, and like you just want to hear about
wholesome things like
that
Simpson.
guy from the Chiefs who like crashed his car into 6 people. If you just want to talk about something else, you don't have to be super into sports to enjoy it. It's mostly just me and Keith fucking around. But we do that tomorrow night. It'll be at 6:45, just like this, only different topics, and no Deadleg unless he wants to show up.
I'm usually not there.
Usually not
Sometimes-
even there. Deadleg
What?
actually hates that show.
I boycott it.
I'm just kidding.
He's protesting.
I watch other shows on that day in protest. I go to Columbia University and I
You're
set
doing
my
it-
tent up in protest.
You're doing it for Palestine, so I appreciate that. Chris Duquette, you need to show up. You need to show up tomorrow, man. I'm around. I do other things. I'm here on other days. Tuesday, I'm also here too for True Crime. I don't know if you guys saw me last night. But yeah, that'll be a good show. And then I assume they've got a big one brewing for Friday. Do you know anything about their plans on Friday?
We had talked last week, about, because we didn't know that we were going to do Illegal Shift live. We talked about taking Illegal Shift and moving it to Friday and then doing their live from the thing on Thursday. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on for Friday. I don't know if we'll have a show or if we will put up the show from Thursday from the meetup, or if you and me and Keith are going to do a breakdown. If you want to be around, I'll be around. So we've got that to figure out. But there's not 2 shows tomorrow: the Legal Shift and then the live from the podcast in Florida. I think they're going at 7:30. I think we'll find out. And we'll put it out.
Figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
There's gonna be cool shit going on. Yeah.
Yep, all kinds of stuff. And then same thing next week. We got Uncuffed on Monday, True Crime on Tuesdays. Wednesday will be this show, Last Call, and then Legal Shift
Keep
next
cycling
Thursday.
around.
And then we keep doing it again.
We
It's a great thing
appreciate you guys out there in the Wolfpack. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for tuning in on a day where you're not going to get your favorite Eric Tansey, but hopefully the 3 of us, come up with some, putting us all together. We're something of an amalgamation, something close to Eric Tansey. We appreciate everybody watching. We will catch you all guys next time. We should all say guns up, giddy up.
Guns up, giddy up.
All at once. Ready? No, I'm just kidding. All right, guys, guns up, giddy up. Good night.
See ya.
See ya.